I smell my farts every single time. I can't even lie. Kumi, do you have a Twitch account? Yeah. Oh!
Hi farty harpy lady.
There are VTubers who are cozy, there are VTubers who are high energy, and then there is Kumi, someone who doesn't really sit in either category. She isn't constantly loud, and she isn't consistently chaotic, but that's exactly what makes her work. Kumi exists in these unpredictable bursts where chat can rile her up in milliseconds, or she'll somehow spiral entirely on her own, turning nothing into something. One moment she's calm, almost reserved, and the next she's a full-blown pigeon, spiraling into noise, tangents, and complete nonsense without warning. And it's in those moments, those sudden spikes of weirdness and total lack of filter, that she becomes weirdly, almost inexplicably enjoyable in a way no other VTuber that I watch can quite replicate. And the big part of that lack of filter is just how far she's willing to go with it. Kumi openly jokes about things like pooping, shitting herself, or farting. With almost any other VTuber, that kind of humor would feel like an immediate turnoff, something that breaks immersion or just comes across as trying too hard. But with Kumi, it doesn't land that way. It feels natural, unforced, like you're watching someone whose thoughts are completely unfiltered in real time. She'll jump from a normal conversation into something completely unhinged, becoming the chaotic little seagull that chat can barely keep up with, or sometimes the instigator of her own downfall entirely. And somehow, instead of pushing you away, it loops back around into being weirdly endearing, even hilarious. Because it's not the joke itself that works, it's how effortlessly it fits into her brand of chaos.
Anyways, the reason why shit doesn't come out of my ass is because my ass is just so fat. My cheeks don't let it out. It's like there's just so much in the way. It doesn't come out. Look at this! Look at this! Okay, I'm gonna show it with my hands. Alright, watch this. Alright.
There's a very clear line in VTubing that most creators instinctively avoid, especially when it comes to the humor that risks breaking immersion or pushing viewers away. And Kumi doesn't cross that line, she ignores it entirely. Toilet humor in particular tends to carry a kind of stigma in this space, or just the internet in general, because it clashes so heavily with often the curated, stylized personas that many VTubers maintain. It can feel jarring, out of place, or even desperate if it's used incorrectly, like a shortcut to get a reaction rather than something that naturally fits the tone of the stream. That's why most people either avoid it altogether or keep it at arm's length, using it sparingly and with a level of self-awareness that softens the impact. Kumi, on the other hand, treats it like any other passing thought, and that's exactly why it works. There's no build-up, no emphasis, no sense that she's expecting a reaction, or even particularly cares whether she gets one. The jokes aren't framed as jokes, they just happen, dropped into conversations within the same weight as anything else she might decide to say. And because of that, they don't interrupt the flow of the stream. They are the flow, woven into the same chaotic rhythm that defines everything else she does on that stream in particular. It stops feeling like shock humor and starts feeling like an extension of her overall lack of filter, which makes it even easier to accept, even if it would be off-putting in a different context or for any other kind of VTuber. What's interesting is how quickly that initial resistance, because there usually is some, gets replaced by familiarity. The first time she says something completely unhinged, it might catch you off guard, maybe even feel like too much, but as you spend more time watching Kumi, it starts to feel expected in the best possible way. Not predictable, but consistent. It becomes part of the internal logic of her streams, where the question isn't whether she'll cross that line again, but where and how she'll do it this time. And because it never feels like she's escalating for the sake of it, it avoids the trap of needing to constantly outdo itself to stay effective. That consistency is what ultimately reframes the humor from something that could easily alienate viewers into something that instead reinforces her identity. You're not laughing because the content of the joke is inherently funny, you're laughing because it's her saying it. in that exact moment, in that exact way, completely unprompted and completely unfiltered. It becomes character-driven rather than content-driven, which is why it holds up over time instead of wearing thin after X amount of times. In a space where so much humor can rely often on timing or structure, Kumi's works because it precisely feels like it has neither, even if, on some level, that absence is its own kind of structure.
I also adore the silver and bronze heterochromia. It really brings out your personality. And it's fitting that you don't have any gold in the design. Poor Kumi never number one. Same chatter here. Did you go for silver and bronze because you like the colors, or did you not place high enough for gold in your own design contest?
Kumi's relationship with chat is another place where things feel just slightly off compared to the norm, and that subtle difference ends up shaping the entire experience of her streams. In many cases, chat functions as either a passive audience that reacts to what's happening, or as something the streamer actively manages, trying to guide the conversation, responding selectively, and maintaining a certain level of control over how the stream begins to unfold. There's usually a clear dynamic in place. Chat throws something out, the streamer picks it up or ignores it, and the flow continues in a relatively structured way. With Kumi, that structure feels looser, almost to the point of not existing. Instead of trying to control chat, she seems to often collide with it, like two separate forces constantly bumping into each other and changing direction as a result. A single message might spark a tangent, but that tangent rarely stays within the boundaries of what was originally said. It expands, mutates, and often ends up somewhere completely disconnected from its starting point, with chat scrambling to keep up, rather than leading the interaction. And just as often, she doesn't need chat to spark anything at all, she'll derail herself entirely, creating moments that feel self-contained, yet somehow interactive enough because chat is reacting alongside her rather than trying to redirect her. That dynamic between Kumi and chat has created a sense of shared unpredictability where neither side feels fully dictated to what happens next. Chat isn't just feeding her setup for reactions, and she isn't simply performing responses on command. Instead, both are contributing to this constantly shifting stream of moments that build off of each other in a messy, often unintended kind of way. It makes the experience feel less like a performance being delivered and more like something unfolding in real time, where even the person at the center of it doesn't have full control over where it's going. Because of that, her streams retain a kind of freshness that's hard to replicate. Even regular viewers who are familiar with her tendencies and her sense of humor can't fully predict how any given moment will play out, because it depends on too many variables. Her mood, chat's input, the timing of a random thought, the way one idea bleeds into another, and that unpredictability doesn't just come from chaos for its own sake. It comes from the absence of strict boundaries between streamer and audience, between setup and payoff, between intention and outcome. Everything blends together into something that feels alive in a way that's more controlled than it often doesn't feel like at all.
Type 1 if you are single, and 2 if you are not. Mom! Do not type 1! Stop it! Mom! Stop! 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 I think you'd like lube your ass up to shit easier. Like lube it up, like pre-shit lube. Stop talking! I had my eyes closed and she just kept fucking going! I thought she would have stopped by then!
There's a strange kind of pattern that starts to emerge the longer you watch Kumi, and it's not immediately obvious until you notice how chat reacts whenever certain names come up. Not in a way that feels malicious or dismissive, but in a way that's almost comedic and repeatedly enjoyable. Like how chat collectively asks or mentions how they want to see Kumi's mum more than they do her, or when they call heavenly when Kumi asks not to. Chat treats them with a kind of shared fascination that sometimes feels like it rivals or even overtakes Kumi herself. The moment they're mentioned, the tone shifts, the focus sharpens, and suddenly the conversation isn't just about orbiting Kumi anymore. It's branching outward into something bigger, something that she herself has less control over. What's fascinating is that this doesn't weaken Kumi's presence. It actually reinforces it in a weird, indirect sort of way. because the fact that chat is so eager to latch onto Heavenly Father or bring up her mom says something about the kind of space Kumi has managed to create. It's not tightly controlled or overly curated. It's open, messy, and full of loose threads that chat can grab onto and run with. In a more structured stream, that kind of shift in attention might feel disruptive, like the focus is being pulled away from the streamer. But with Kumi, it feels like part of the flow, like the stream is constantly expanding outward rather than staying centered on a single point or conversation. She doesn't shut it down or redirect it in any way, at least not all the time. She reacts to it, gets pulled into it, or sometimes even loses control of the conversation entirely because of it and chat. And that's where the dynamic becomes genuinely entertaining, because it creates this layered interaction where Kumi isn't always the sole driver of what's happening. Chat will fixate on Heavenly Father or start elevating her mom into this beloved presence, building bits, jokes, and expectations around them that takes on a life of their own. And Kumi, instead of maintaining distance from that, ends up getting tangled into it, reacting, escalating, or sometimes unintentionally feeding into it in ways that makes the whole thing feel enjoyable and repeatedly hilarious. It's not a clean, controlled dynamic where she's guiding chat step by step. It's chaotic, reactive, and constantly shifting, with multiple focal points competing for attention at any given moment. What makes this work is that Kumi doesn't try to reclaim that spotlight in a forceful way. She doesn't shut down the comparisons or the shifting attention. She exists alongside it, sometimes even becoming the one reacting to the very thing that's pulling focus away from her. And that's a difficult balance to maintain, because it requires a level of comfort with not always being the center of attention, even with your own stream. But in Kumi's case, it ends up enhancing her appeal rather than diminishing it, because it feeds directly into that sense of unpredictability and lack of control that defines her content. The stream stops feeling like a single person performance and starts feeling like a chaotic ecosystem, where Kumi, chat, Heavenly Father, and the ever-present reappearance of her mom all collide in ways that are messy, unscripted, and weirdly compelling to watch.
When you walk up the stairs, does it jiggle? Ooh, don't rub it, chat. Ooh, don't rub it. Don't touch it. Don't rub it. Oh no, dude. I hate myself.
Kumi works because she doesn't feel like she's trying to work. Her appeal isn't built on a clear gimmick, a defined niche, or even a consistent tone. It's built on a kind of contradiction, calm that turns into chaos, off-putting humor turning into something endearing, randomness that somehow feels more authentic than carefully crafted personalities. She exists in a space that shouldn't really function as well as it does, constantly flirting with being too much, too weird, or too unfiltered, and yet never quite crossing into being unwatchable. And maybe that's why she's so hard to explain, because if you break it down on paper, it really shouldn't work. The humor shouldn't land, the chaos should get tiring, the lack of structure should make her forgettable. But instead, all of those things combine into something oddly compelling, something that keeps you watching, not because you know what you're going to get, but because you don't.